Live here for the finale of the RCI Night Owl Season 14. I am Jesse Lee, joined by Sarah Stant tonight, bringing you all the action from the 90-minute finale tonight. Sarah, welcome in, and you have walked into an interesting championship fight in silver, at least, and one of the most dominant drivers we've ever seen in pro. Welcome in.
Hey, glad to be back again. It's been a little bit of a minute, but I'm just so glad to be back here and absolutely seeing these standings. It's going to be an amazing race today. We're going to see a lot of door-to-door battling.
We certainly are. We're at Donington Park in the United Kingdom, of course, the state of the final race of Season 14. There's a lot to be played for the silver class and some of the pro positions as well. We'll show you the championship points, of course, when we get there. First, a little bit of work to do here in qualifying. 15-minute session as always. And no, we are not going to regroup them based on how they qualified in class. They will start wherever they qualified. Now, Sarah, that's interesting because often you will have silver drivers qualifying well up the pro order at different racetracks. I don't think you're going to see anything different here tonight.
I don't think so either. And having that sort of intermix of battling is going to make it a lot harder for drivers who fall behind. If we have a pro driver that ends up a little bit behind some silver drivers, they're going to have to deal with maybe a little bit more erratic driving than they're hoping for.
Certainly could be the case. You always have to watch out because when you got two classes racing each other or battling, that can become an issue. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, we are in qualifying. The first representative time set by Timothy Flanger. You know, they were quick in practice, and they set a 26.8 right out of the gate. Asbury goes P2. They're the better part of 9/10 off. And here comes Phil Roberts, the Kaiju McLaren, coming in 3/10 off of Flanger's Alpha Sim Sport car. You know, Flanger just got out of an SRO race that I also was part of the broadcast team from. Certainly hoping for a little better result here in this race than the SRO race, TLDR drive-through penalty.
Drive-through penalties are always one of the worst things you can experience as a driver. It absolutely demoralizes you, and you just got to hope that you can get back on the track and try to maintain some positions.
Certainly is. You know this guy, it's Grim Lilith driving the Mad Panda Motorsport car. Asked him, Mad Panda, been driving that a lot recently, but just joined us for the series after being away, but recently been enjoying the Mad Panda car. Just wants to let everybody know that he's coming. It's a very visible car and kind of cute as well.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Mad Panda always puts out just wonderful liveries.
Certainly do. Coming up to finish their lap, they're well above, or at least they were before they got into the hairpin. They were 2/10 up, now just 1/10 up as they come through the final turn. And we'll see if they're able to hang on to it. They haven't done. They're about even on their time as they come to the line. Neil Pimlott looking pretty good, held on to their time, actually made up time, did Neil Pimlott, coming through the chicane. I think they call that the S's, actually, is what they call that here. That is most definitely a chicane, though.
It's always interesting when you have these sort of names that are more traditional based on older track layouts. We see some of those. Virginia is one of those perfect examples. The oak tree's no longer there anymore.
Oh, it's so sad. I was just old enough to appreciate motorsport when the oak tree was there at that racetrack. Unfortunate, but you know, things do have to change. It's like Snetterton, the tree. I forget what they call it, but it's
the scary tree.
The scary tree's not there anymore. Got hit by
it's
lightning.
Not anything lasts in this world, but you know, we can at least enjoy it while we have it.
Speaking of...
like this race we're watching right now.
I was going to say, excellent segue. I was just going to say, not everything lasts, including the quickest time. You'll remember it was a 26.8. It's a 26.6 for Timothy Flanger as they go quicker. Nearly outfoxing them is Jordan Daly. Now, what can you say about the Triple R driver in the 197 BMW? Just absolute domination this season and has been so far. Looking to go for the clean sweep. Already won the championship in Pro. I'll spoil that for you. But looking to chase glory. Only one other driver, Sarah, in the history of RCI. That's many, many years, hundreds if not thousands of races. Only one other driver has ever won a 5-race or more championship by winning every round in the pro category. And Jordan Daly trying to become the second only driver to do it. 35/100ths off a pole here today from that top spot as well.
Seeing his performance in these series, he definitely has a shot at it. Gapping other drivers by the end of the race by 20 seconds or more is just absolutely beyond impressive.
I agree with you 100%. Brent Jones is going to set the first really representative lap. They got a banker lap in there. That'll move them up. P16, a 28.572 for the Welshman. And that definitely helps you, gets you closer to your rivals as Kevin Boss sets a time just in front. The wheelie slow car set a decent enough, it was a 28.160. One of the drivers sort of frustrated was Kevin Boss. Felt that they could contend for this championship. Life, of course, had other plans. We have the drop round, but unfortunately had to miss an additional round. But here, trying to contest the finale. Kevin Boss loves Donington Park. He's got a very good relationship with this Lamborghini for wheelie slow. Don't look past them. I know they're nowhere near the top 5 right now, but again, half qualifying left to go.
Hopefully we get to see a little bit more of that for sure. The Lamborghini is an amazing car right now. Great stability, super swift. Only thing that it really suffers in is tire degradation. In longer races, you're definitely going to see a drop off and a little bit more slidiness by the end of the race.
I wish you would have told me that a couple of weeks ago, because guess what? I'm entering in the 24 with Kevin Boss.
You entered with the Lamborghini. I wish you all the luck in the world.
We are going to have a very fun 24 hours. Neil Pimlott's going to have a fun qualifying if he can get back to the timing line, and he has done a 2/10 improvement, a 27.137. That puts him back up into 4th place. That's more where we expect to see Pimlott.
Improving those kind of lap times is really going to give him that chance to get a little bit more ahead. Seeing the lap times from the other drivers, a 26.647, a 26.682, and a 27.132 ahead of him, he's got a little bit of claw ahead if he really wants to catch up to Timothy. But if he's happy where he is, then he's going to be able to do a lot today.
Certainly is. Grim Lilith, of course, just mentioned a moment ago, they're back in action after a small hiatus, but they are back. And for anybody that remembers Grim Lilith, everybody should remember Grim Lilith, the controller player who races with the best of the pros, and admitted to me earlier, might be a little bit rusty. Had to get back in the swing of it. It's been just a little bit since they've raced in earnest. That was an improvement up to 8th, a 27.387, and that will be a readjustment for the 115, both on the racetrack and in the pit lane for the time being. Looking like an improvement for Jordan Daly here, as long as they can keep it together. And wow, I thought that might have been an invalidation. It wasn't.
That chicane is absolutely one of those places where you're going to find that sometimes you don't invalidate and sometimes you do. I know I've got to drive through on this racetrack several times.
Oh, preach. Absolutely. I've had a couple myself. It's quite frustrating indeed. Jordan Daly coming to the line. Looks like an improvement. Sarah, what is it?
It is a 1:26.145. Good enough for the fastest lap of the day so far.
That was absolutely incredible, and Timothy Flamger not going to let that ride up on their lap. It just went away. They were up on it, and now they're down on it, and you can tell they're just getting a run up here. They've abandoned the lap in the final sector, which is smart, and they've got back on it. Why would you take that wide arc? Well, simply to get more speed down the straight, get a longer run, set up for that quali lap. You see Formula drivers do that quite a bit as well. Works here in ACC as well.
You have to be very careful with it in ACC, though. They have little tools in it to make sure that you're not abusing track limits for that, and will absolutely invalidate your next lap if you do it.
I am so slow. I've never realized that, but I'm going to take your word for it. That sounds like ACC to me. You're never not being scored when you play ACC. Joe Dauber for the R Souls Incorporated car goes P3, a big improvement, a 980. I'm not dyslexic, I promise, but that was a 980 for them. That propels them into P3. Top 5 looking like Daly, Flamger, Dauber, Roberts, and Pimlott, all within a second, and it's a log jam behind them. Steer, Kierton, Kwiatkowski, a lot of them.
It's always important to remember to leave a little bit of space when you're doing your qualifications, because otherwise you run up on other drivers and that can cost you a perfect lap.
Certainly can. Again, good turnout here. I will admit this is the fifth and the final race in the championship. Sarah, you're no stranger to seeing fall off in championships. People lose interest. People cannot make the rounds, et cetera, and so forth. The field typically, doesn't matter what series it is, it dwindles towards the end, but 21 cars here for the finale, that's pretty darn good retention.
I would say absolutely impressive. RCI, as always, does such a great job of putting on these series. I'm so thankful for all the people that do it.
Including us here in the broadcast, but just two of us today, by the way. I'm on the cameras and the comms. Sarah was so nice, threw me a lifeline and joined me tonight. Otherwise, it would have just been me. Sarah, thank you so much.
Of course, of course. I love to be here in the comms booth with y'all.
I don't know if anybody else would say that. Tim Peck would definitely not word it that way. He would say something more along the lines of, I tolerate you. So I do appreciate it.
And I have to go back to Grim there. Grim's ability to drive on a controller is deeply humbling. I attempted to drive on a Steam Deck, and boy, was that hard.
Steam Deck, that's interesting. I want to explore that in a second. Tim Ireland's going to come across the line and post the 17th quickest time, a nice improvement, 28.5 even for them, as they will have a rethink here. Now I wonder if that might be qualifying over for that car, or will they give it another go? Timothy Flamger's coming back to the line, and this might be an improvement if he can hold it. Oh, no, he's not. That's timing and scoring is lying to me, and it isn't. It was correct, and that was a loss, but still out there on a lap. Remember, all flying laps do count. Joe Dauber's on a quick one. He's about a 10th into the green coming through the hairpin and into Goddard's for the penultimate time. He'll get another lap if he has the fuel and the tires for it, and he's taking a long arcing run at it. That means he must have lost time, and in fact, he is way down, and he's going to take another run. Everybody trying to extend as far as they can here.
Getting in that last little bit of time when your fuel is the lowest, when your tires are nice and in the right zone, might give you a chance to get some of those really great times, but leaving it to the very end, it's a risky move.
Ostrichar's just invalidated. They were up mega on their time, trying to squeeze a little bit more out of the Simulation Esport Lamborghini, but invalidated coming through the S's, as the British call it. And that is unfortunate for them. Again, silver lining, they will get.
Well, now we're looking at Neil here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how Neil's been doing, Jesse?
Neil's been doing pretty decently. I will say he's one of those drivers where they're always in the fight. One of the regulars here at RCI, I mean, everybody here pretty much is a regular. Trust me, if you're racing from Europe or Asia at this time of night or morning, depending on what continent you're on, that's dedication. You want to be racing at this time. Neil Pimlott's one of those. We've been hearing from him post-race about his races. He's been gracious enough to come in and talk about his trials, tribulations, and you don't usually get that. Normally you hear post-race interviews, you're hearing from the winner maybe, and that's about it. Neil Pimlott does improve, a 27.030, and yeah, got across the line in time. But yeah, Neil's very gracious enough to come in a lot of nights and tell us, hey, this is my view from my position, racing in and around the top 5.
Hearing those kind of other stories, I think, is one of the best parts about racing. Because, you know, when it comes to racing, we often think about the driver who's in first, but some of the best battles can be anywhere from the last 3 positions to the top 5 positions. We never know.
Absolutely the case. And that's the thing, too. Neil will come in and he'll give us a perspective and tell us things that are going on in the race that we can only theorize about, or maybe we didn't see at all. And Neil's one of those drivers, he's a crafty veteran, and he'll say, oh yeah, Daly was quicker, or I had a good fight with Dauber, or Kierton, we had a good race back and forth. And I do quite enjoy that perspective. Kaiju Racing's getting a better perspective up into the second row of the grid. A 26.677 does their qualifying, and what an improvement that was. That swapped them around a little bit, got them a little closer to the front. Phil Roberts, of course, still racing here late in the season for positions. Redford comes across the line. That was an improvement. puts them P6 on the grid. But everybody was chasing Jordan Daly, that blue and pink car right there in the middle of the screen. Nobody able to best him. Another impressive pole position. Let's take a look at the timetable.
Absolutely not a surprise at all seeing Jordan with another 0.5 increase over the driver behind him. That was a repeat of what he did last race as well.
Half a second between him and Timothy Flamger. Phil Roberts less than a third of a second, or just about a third of a second behind Flamger. That's going to be real close, and not too far behind them, not to be outdone. You got Joe Dauber and Olivier Kierton in the fight as well. Very close between all of those. The silver honors goes to Mike Redford, who out-qualified Roman Frawler and Astbury. 26.930, good enough for the silver pole position. These are what the overall positions look like. Well, we saw the positions as they are going to line up tonight. Let's take a look at the championship standings. Starting out with Pro, we'll start with the obvious. Jordan Daly has clinched the championship, 213 points. That's a large points total for only 4 rounds of racing. Timothy Flamger, 177, looking pretty secure in second place. Phil Roberts, though, still contesting positions inside the top 3, 151. Neil Pimlott in fourth place, 140, not too far behind, definitely within striking distance. And Marvin Steer rounds out the top 5, 118. George Kiakowski, 105 in sixth place. Matthew Malcolm, 102. Grim Lilith with 96 points. Joe Dauber, 93 points. Olivier Kierton rounds out your top 10 with 87 points. Outside of that, Harry Conway on 44. Everyone else has retired from the championship. Sarah, take us through the silver championship standings.
Will do. Here's your silver championship standings. We have Ivo Zarashek sitting at 187 points. We have Ingo Lopez with a 171. Mike Redford with a 169. Adnan Pusina with a 167. Tim Ireland with a 128. Kevin Boss coming in at 6 with 121. Sahil Mustak at 115, sitting at 7th place. Lee Kettle is sitting with a 105 in 8th. Bren Jones with a 9th place finish for 81 points. And Roman Frawler pulling in with 53 points in 10th place. Outside the top 10, we have number 11, Alan Asbury with 31 points. We have Adam Ostrichas with 0 points in 12th, and everybody else has retired from the series.
We have had some retirement, but I promise you that is pretty darn good for this stage of the season. Final race of the championship. We've seen qualifying. Sarah, I've got to ask, what do you expect? And don't say Jordan Daly to pull away. I think we have an idea that might happen. What I'm actually asking, what's going to happen between Flamger, Roberts, Dauber, and maybe Mike Redford as well?
I think we're going to see a lot of hungry drivers trying to get to that second and third place position. But I think the ultimate equalizer might come to play today.
Everyone has their opinions of Donington Park here in the United Kingdom. Almost everybody loves this racetrack. Some, though, based on car choice, it's the bane of their existence. Where do you stand on that?
If I'm driving anything but the Honda, I love this track.
See,
if I'm
that's
driving
what I'm
the
saying.
Honda, hate it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Some drivers are like, oh, it's a great racetrack. I just wish I was in anything but insert car here. McLaren, historically, very good around here. AMG, historically, very good around here. Recent memory, I'm talking about ACC, of course, for everybody at home. BMW, quite good here. Jordan Daly came in. I had a small talk with him before he went out for practice today. Seemed like a confident man. Seems like a man who shows up already knowing he's won the championship, but he did more than talk the talk. He walked the walk. He put it on pole.
Absolutely. You can't come in holding that position and not really give it your all. Otherwise, it just shows that you're showboating.
I've seen a couple of times drivers usually, most of the time, they err on the side of caution, folks, and they'll say, I don't know, we'll see. A couple of guys are really good. Jordan Daly, it wasn't quite that. It was, I feel good. Love this racetrack. BMW is good here. And usually, as a broadcaster, Sarah, when a driver tells you that, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. And Daly, half a second quicker in qualifying. What can Timothy Flamger do, though, to challenge the number one driver this season?
Keep the car as stable as you can and avoid drive-throughs. Drive-throughs on the chicane there is absolutely going to be that big factor today.
For the Silver Championship, for the Silver drivers, what's your best advice for them navigating not only the Silver traffic, trying to jostle for final position in that class, but also jostling for position with pro cars that are in the middle of this field? What's the best advice you can give them?
The best advice I can give is just handling it like you always do. Remember, you're not racing the pro drivers, you're racing each other. You're going to lose positions if you try fighting those pro drivers and then giving it up to a driver who's riding the coattails of that pro driver, getting that bit of a bump draft from them. Don't risk it. Battle the people in your class. Win the race.
By the way, Sarah's not only here to do charity and help me out tonight, Sarah's also the expert. So usually when I ask my co-commentator these questions, they give a very, I'm going to use an Americanism here. I don't know how well this travels. They give a milquetoast answer, sort of a middle of the road answer. You're giving me the driver's answers. I love that.
I mean, as somebody who isn't racing in the pro, who does race in those lower levels, it's one of the most important skills you can learn as you start to improve is not getting caught up trying to fight drivers who are going to be faster than you. You get a lot out of, getting behind into their draft. Take advantage of it while you can. Get that extra bit of speed. Learn their lines while you're racing behind them. You'll learn a lot. You'll get faster.
I think that's really great advice, too, for people that maybe are in the middle of the pack or maybe starting out trying to figure out what they can do better. 9 times out of 10, if you follow somebody who you perceive to be more skilled or adjusted to a racetrack than you, if you follow them for just a few laps, usually speaking, you do pick up some time.
Now, the question I have for you, Jesse, is how many drive-throughs do you think there's going to be today?
Oh, that is a really good question. I'm going to go, and I hate to do this to the drivers, but I will say I think we'll see just about 4 of them here tonight. There'll be 4 different cars that run afoul of that. I will say that's the under. If we're doing the over-under thing, Sarah, that's the under. Where are you coming in?
I'm thinking, for me, I'm looking at, that's a tough choice. Judging by what we've seen in terms of validations, I'm going to say 6 today. This is a little bit of a longer race, so there's more opportunity for those drivers.
I forgot about that for the second time tonight. Full disclosure, folks at home, Sarah and I had a conversation about this before going live tonight. Completely forgot. This is a 90-minute race. Normally I have Ted Edwards with me, and he would tell me what the pit requirements are tonight. I don't have Ted Edwards with me tonight. I don't know what they are. We're going to find out together. All I can tell you is there is one, but I don't know what it is. Very professional of me, sure. But I unfortunately don't know. I do know it's a 90-minute race. I do know it's a partly cloudy sort of morning here, just about 10:25 in sim time at Donington Park. 21 degrees C on the track, 18 the ambient temperature. Pretty ideal racing conditions, all things considered for the time being. But it is night out, and I can assure you of one thing: there is always the possibility of rain.
And with that possibility of rain, we bring in the great equalizer. A lot of drivers get real flummoxed if they don't plan for that rain. That's why it's always important, if you know there's even an inkling of a chance for rain when you're preparing for a race or a series, make sure you have that wet set preloaded. Make sure you tick that button that says change tires. The tires will not change from wet tires if you don't press that button.
We've seen that happen a lot, haven't we? Cars, drivers going through the motions but not really thinking about it too much, and not putting the wet tires on or not taking them off. Saw that at the Spa 24 esports race that SRO put on. we saw a car or two do that in the race. Those are the top of the top, the creme de la creme of GT3 sim racers, and that still happens because what is the, I forget what the law is called, but anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I forgot.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Laws. That's why you're the expert. God, you're so smart. But yeah, that is Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and you betcha it will go wrong. Just about a couple of turns away from green flag racing tonight. Wherever you are in the world, we're happy to have you with us. We invite you to like, subscribe, hit the bell for more racing action. Of course, we'll be back with you on Monday afternoon for the beginning of the Mini British GT Championship. We'll have John Dalton and myself on the call for that race. Stewie behind the cameras back for that. And finally, one final thing before we go green. A big thank you to all of you that show up to watch these broadcasts, knowing that I'm the one pushing the buttons. It means a lot to me that you don't immediately click off of the video. Here we go. Green flag for the final time in season 14 of Night Owl. 20 cars strong for the finale. Waiting for the green flag. The flagman waves the flag. The lights go on, and it's a decent getaway for Daly, but Flamger has just about an even one. Inside goes to Jordan Daly as they end up single file. Phil Roberts takes a look down the inside. Nothing doing. Has to go back in line. Looks down the inside again. Nothing doing still. Goes back outside just to get a sight for the corner and goes single file. Everybody else figuring it out in the pack. As many cars going sideways, no major offs that we can speak of for the time being. A good start.
Absolutely amazing clean start through a corner that is just absolutely packed. I think we saw 4 wide heading into that corner there. That was absolutely amazing.
They definitely sorted it out amongst themselves, and Alan Astbury was in the middle of that hornet's nest and somehow was able to just about sneak their way through there and not get involved in any incidents. No real incidents to speak of in this entire field as they all come thundering down to the chicane. They all try to make it through there. Do they all get through their single file? I think they will just about. What a nice lap.
Absolutely. Getting through that clean first lap is super important, but as every sim racer knows, the first lap can be absolutely clean, but it's the second lap when people start to get greedy at this sort of level, and that's when we're going to start seeing those door-to-door bumps.
Alan Asbury on the attack has Grim Lilith right in front of him. So is Kevin Boss in the blue and silver Lamborghini taking a look as well. They have to go single file through there, otherwise you lose a ton of time. They eventually do figure that out amongst themselves, as everybody is still nose to tail, scampering along at the front of the field just barely. 0.7 of a second now, the gap between Daly and Flamger. Flamger certainly keeping him honest on that opening lap as the tire pressures start to come up. The heat starts to get in the tires. We have a race on our hands. Everybody's still in it. Nobody making mistakes.
Not making any sort of mistakes on this track is an absolute event in itself. So we're hoping to see that these drivers continue to keep those clean racing up. I know people at home, you probably love to see those big crashes, but here up in the booth, we love to see that clean racing.
I love to see, this is the American in me, and Sarah can back me up or tell me I'm wrong. I love to see wheel-to-wheel racing. I don't mind some bumps and bangs along the way. We always say here, the cars have fenders for a reason. Do you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. Not to the level that we used to see in NASCAR with the restrictor plate introduction, but definitely a little bit of rubbing on the side in the era of touring cars is definitely a little bit fun.
Oh, there's been a spin. Was that who I think it was, Kevin Boss, involved? No, it wasn't. It was the 199 of Matthew Malcolm. Several cars spun completely around now into the hairpin. They get it fired and going the right direction. What on earth happened there? Let's take a replay. Sarah, take us through it.
Overall, it looks like we had some drivers come up behind another driver there. Car 175 bumped the backside of car 74, sending him into traffic, while 74 just rolled back through traffic. Remember, people, it's so important that you hold your brakes when you get into an accident. Rolling back through traffic is a quick way to cause a big problem. The stewards will probably be taking taking notice of that after the race.
Indeed. No live stewards for this series, as we've said throughout, but post-race stewarding. Not a lot of reports. If we're talking about full transparency, not a lot of reports being put in. A lot of the drivers saying, look, whatever happens out there happens. And it's not like they're getting mad, throwing their toys out the pram and going home. They're showing back up to race, even though they, maybe they've been done wrong by a driver or two. They've just sort of let bygones be bygones, basically. I know that frustrates the stewards a little bit, but in a certain way, that's actually quite admirable.
Absolutely. Getting out there and just focusing on the racing and not being too worried about what happens during the race can be a really solid mindset. It's just important to not fall into that mindset of revenge and trying to, give people a little bit back for what they gave you. Because if that happens, then...
It's absolutely, that is not tolerated here. Luckily, you don't ever really see it. We've seen it a couple of times over the years, but beyond that, not a whole lot of that going on, thank goodness. Grim Lilith having a heck of a fight with Roman Frawler. Frawler hanging tough. Two different classes. The white background for the number means it's pro. The gray background meaning silver, of course. Two different classes here fighting. Grim probably would have liked a little professional courtesy there. Received none from Roman Frawler.
And when it comes to this sort of racing, that sort of professional courtesy, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. At the end of the day, all the courtesy in the world doesn't win you a race.
I've definitely been lapped by faster cars. People I know, that I'm not going to name names, but people I know that you expect to give a little courtesy, and they don't. And why don't they? Well, they really can, and that's why. Make one mistake, Roman Frawler losing a spot. He might lose another one here. He's going to go incredibly wide. He might lose three. He's on the inside. Apex missing professionals. I hate to say it, but when does a meme not become not a meme? A couple of Apexes later, I think that all started coming through the chicane, hitting the curb. They went off the racetrack. That allowed Lilith through. Astbury able to get through on the or down to the inside of him in the chicane. And was that the extent of the damage done? Yes, indeed. George Kwiatkowski in the Ferrari still behind him for the time being.
Not to show my age, but I definitely have to say there, in that moment, to quote Wayne's World, it's not just a clever name.
I support this. I always forget we're from the same age group. I always forget that. And, the references are not lost on me. Children, educate yourself. Wayne's World. Fantastic film. Should I be telling children to watch Wayne's World? Is there anything in there that they shouldn't be seeing? Anyway, ask your parents to watch Wayne's World. There, I covered myself on this occasion.
There you go.
Phil Roberts and Joe Dahlberg having a fight. Remember, Phil Roberts was on the back of Timothy Flamger a little bit ago. The car not quite up to that pace, 1.6 off of Flamger now. We saw this for the last couple of weeks with Phil Roberts. It's almost as if he takes a little bit better care of his car in the early part of the race, and he always is strong at the end. He's got a lot of podiums in the series, third in the championship, of course. So this is not uncommon to see Phil Roberts. I don't think he's struggling so much as he's sort of saving the car.
Saving the car is a strategy you often see used by NASCAR drivers. Keeping control of those tires and making sure the car stays nice and pristine can improve the air of the car and allow you to really pull away when other drivers start to flag near the end of the race.
Some of these drivers know this, and they will have practiced for this and know exactly what their car is capable of. They'll have set it up that way too. There are ways where you can sort of hurt yourself early on in the race, and the most easy thing, also too, I've just realized, I talked to a couple of the drivers, right? One common thread, Sarah, amongst them all, worried a little bit about brakes in this race for some reason.
The changes made in the most recent patch definitely made the quality of like how long the brakes last and how long the tires last be a lot less than they used to be. Good example of that, we were talking about tires before. I competed in an endurance race recently, and it was in the wet, and we didn't swap our wet tires, and at the very end of the stint it went damp and we blew a tire.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that with the racing the damp tire. Used to, in ACC, you could run those wet weather Pirellis to the cords, essentially. It'd be fine. Oh, a little bit of contact. Is that going to lead to a spin for the 91? It is. Steer is going to go around and is sort of stranded there. He can't back up, or he'll back up into the line of the other cars. He's got to go forward. He still wants to go backwards, clearly, but he's not going to be able to, and he's sitting there eagerly trying to rejoin the race. Just a line of cars coming through, waved yellows. Oh, I see. He's trying to turn around that way. The turning circle of modern GT cars, not great, using a literal country mile to get that car turned around, but well done to Marvin Steer, not making a bad situation worse. Got turned in the corner, but rejoining safely.
That was a bit of a rough time there for Steer, getting hit by the car 151 and getting sent into a bit of a spin there. Nothing he could have done in that situation.
Yeah, Neil Pimlott just got in there and gave him a little bit of a nudge. Neil Pimlott didn't mean to do that. Obviously, he was off of him immediately, but just caught up to him at the exact wrong time and spun him around. Steer to 19th place. We had 21 qualifiers, 20 people taking the green flag, and for the life of me, I can't remember which car we were missing.
That is a very good question. I wish I could tell you, but I can tell you in just a second. We are currently missing driver... Oh, my thing seems to be missing as well. I had it written down.
Listen, we're not crazy. We agree there were 21 cars in practice and qualifying, and there's only 20 on the grid.
There is definitely only 21, or 20 now, yeah.
Yeah, I have my apologies to you if you were the one that was unable to make the grid tonight. Yeah, Matthew Malcolm's in there. No, the 199 had issues earlier on, got tangled up in the incident with the 74 and the 175. They're all the way at the back. So as much as Steer sat there, still not enough to be passed by Matthew Malcolm, who basically had nowhere to go, arrived to the scene of an accident, and was impacted by that. Significant damage, I would argue, on the 199 Ferrari. But they continue on as they go. Joe Dalber continuing to fight with Flamger, or excuse me, continuing to fight with Phil Roberts, able to take that spot away. Roberts down to 4th place. And again, I just feel like this is Phil Roberts sort of driving to a limit, driving to a number here. Not overdriving the car, not overusing the brakes. We'll see if he reappears at the end of this thing.
Absolutely. Right now, it looks like he's really getting it along the razor's edge.
Certainly so. Remember, 90-minute race, required pit stop. You have to come into the pit lane at some point during this race. When the pit window is open, which it is now, Jordan Daly leading the race by 1.8 seconds. Timothy Flamger keeping him honest at this point. Joe Dauber newly into 3rd place. And that is your podium for the moment. Adam Ostrichar's for the Simunation Esports car, right on the back of Seal Mustang for 16th place. Just goes to show you, no matter where you are in this field, you're probably racing somebody.
And that's really kind of the joy of this sort of racing, is that no matter what, even if you're in the back there, you're still pushing hard against somebody. Especially with a field this big, there's never a chance where you're not having some racing.
Three-way battle here. That's the best first name in sim racing. Up in front of them in 15th place, Lee Kettle. I'm not biased or anything. We've got Mustak and Ostrichar's here all fighting over that spot. A little bit of counter steer required from the driver of the 74 right there. Don't know if that was damage incurred from the earlier accident, or maybe just digging off the corner trying to get as much as they can. Maybe just a little bit too much of a bite. Ooh, there it is again.
Having that little bit of a bite could definitely be the result of damage to the car. And dealing with that sort of damage... Oh!
Kevin Boss around in... I believe that's Goddard's, isn't it? Yeah. Kevin Boss around. Let's take a look. Tell me what you see here. Oh my goodness, just gets into Kwiatkowski.
Just absolutely went wide there. I'm not Not sure what happened at all.
That's very odd. That was George Kwiatkowski, by the way, the 212 that he had contact with. Just that, what a strange incident. I am going to say this. Kevin Boss will love this when he comes back. He watches this on repeat. Little RCI trivia. The last time Kevin Boss was driving here at Donington Park at RCI competition, he was leading the race and crashed on the last lap.
That is absolutely just one of the worst feelings in the world. And it happens. It happens to professional drivers all the way down to AM. I also do have a bit of an update. We have figured out who the driver who is missing. The driver is Oliver Kierton, car 111.
Oh, it's Oliver Kierton. That's correct. I have no idea what happened to Kierton. They look to be doing pretty good, but for one reason or another, they've had to withdraw. Hope everything's all right with Kierton. One of the, clearly one of the regulars here at RCI. Runs a bunch of different things. Hope everything's okay with him. That's unusual for them to miss.
They were there in quali. I guess they just didn't feel like they could get the car around here. We did see some people talking in chat about how the Ferrari did not feel super great around here, so that might be part of it.
Oh, it's a big slide from Alan Asbury, but he saved it as he tries to get it back under control, leaving the old hairpin. More often than not, that's a huge spin or a slide into the grass. Remember, I told you the last time Kevin Boss raced here, he had a crash? That's how it happened.
Oh, that's so unfortunate, but amazing recovery, especially hitting the dirt there and managing to stay on the track. Perfect. He's definitely got to be careful and avoid that sort of area, otherwise it's a quick end to the race.
Something has happened with Mustang in the 962. Now, they're still in line. Let's see exactly what happened here. Remember, these three cars all racing each other. Down into the hairpin, into Goddard's. Oh, just a little bit of contact there. Nothing too crazy. We get it back in line. Everything copacetic there.
That door-to-door action like we thought there was going to be today, it's there. These drivers are hungry for position.
Harvard Steer up in position. Tim Ireland now down to 19th. Steer on the recovery drive. Remember, the 91 spun around at this very corner, making their way back. Tells you a couple of things, doesn't Sarah? Number one, the car must not have too much damage and there's still pace in Steer, and he's not giving up.
And you can't give up. If you're really pushing for these kind of races, you got to make sure that you finish them. Finishing a race is one of the best things, in my opinion, that you can do. Getting that sort of track knowledge in an environment that's high stress like this can be worth its weight in gold, worth more than any sort of hot lapping you'll do over the week.
This battle is getting well spicy and has been for the better part of a lap. I'd like to show you what I mean by that, but I'm afraid if I did, we're going to miss something live. But we'll wait for them to clear this section of the racetrack. A couple of contacts is what's happened between Redford and not Neil Pimlott, but Grim Lilith, who has driven all the way inside the top 5. Remember, Grim was 10th place at some point early on in this race, and less than 20 minutes later is inside the top 5. Didn't take him to find, I don't know what I was saying. Didn't take him long to find his rhythm again, did it?
Absolutely not. Grim has shown time and time again that he's found a way to turn the controller into something that many of us just dream our wheel could be as good as.
Of course, Grim, I've said this before and I'll say it again until I'm proven wrong. I'm pretty sure he is the fastest ACC controller driver. The fact that he can come out here and race in the pro field in the top 5. These are not amateur drivers, folks. These are proper esports level drivers. A lot of these drivers inside this top 5 drive for legitimate esports teams that are bringing home prize pools and wins. And Grim, on a gamepad of all things, races in his own way. It's just what he's comfortable with, he says. And he's going out there and he's putting it to him. That is insane. I will say it until I'm proven wrong. The fastest gamepad driver in all of ACC.
I have to absolutely agree with you on that one. If there's a faster one, bring them forward.
I would love to see it.
Until then, nobody seems to be able to surpass Grim.
I can't imagine what anyone quicker would look like. Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely, yeah. The control that you have, like when we go into the cockpit view with Grim, seeing the way that that wheel flicks around is quite frankly terrifying.
the last time I saw somebody drive with sort of the control that Grim has, it was Maciej Malinowski, Tortellini as he's known. He drives with a wheel, Malinowski does, but he does that flick steering, and he's the only one that I've seen do that. Meanwhile, there's a battle for the lead in the silver class. There has been Asbury and Redford going back and forth, and they've just swapped over again. Asbury out in front of Redford for the time being as they've settled it. Let's go back and take a look. Back on lap 11, contact here with the 95. This was racing against Grim. Oh. Trying to tuck back in line, Sarah. Just got it a little bit wrong there. Luckily, nothing worse happened.
Absolutely. You know, you love to see this kind of door-to-door that doesn't result in any sort of greater damage to, you know, the driver's race, because it just shows that sort of that hunger that they have.
Of course, Grim would eventually complete that pass and get through them. Redford, though, having an interesting night. Kwiatkowski taking a look on him right now. Two different classes fighting. Can't do it. Falls back in line. Mike Redford's had a couple of laps. Let's show you another one. This is the same lap. One turn later. A little bit of contact there. Made again. This is where the pass was made. You know, in oval racing, we call that a side drive. Now that looked purposeful, in my opinion.
Of course, we never know if it's actually purposeful or not, or just a little bit of a being sucked into their arrow and bumping them. We
Sure.
hope that these drivers are never malicious in that sort of way.
I don't think it was malicious. I just think that he was saying, could you give me some room, please?
Which is perfectly fair. When you're coming up on those little edges there and you're maintaining that line, you can't squeeze drivers out. You have to give the driver room. Otherwise, you're going to end up in just as much water as they are.
They haven't wrecked each other, and that's the important thing. By the way, if you think Redford's crazy couple of laps is over, it's not. This is a couple of laps ago against the 767. Going down to the inside, trying to make the move is Alan Astbury. He eventually would win that fight of the two of them, and I'm pretty sure this is the moment where he does win that fight. One lap later, after that contact, Asbury around the outside. Redford down the inside for the lead in the silver class. No, he didn't win it there, so he won it somewhere else. But Asbury out in front of Mike Redford. What an incredible, that all happened in the span of 3 laps.
The amount of stuff that's happened in such a short period of time, it feels like we should be coming up on the end of the race, and we are not even 30 minutes into this race. This is going to be a very, very busy race. And I hope you're all glued to your seats right now, because I sure am.
Told you to get a drink, told you to settle in. It's going to be one of those nights. It definitely is one of those races. Roman Frawler in the 110, he missed a couple of apexes earlier, did the team proud. You know how in the F1 games, Sarah, you have like sponsor objectives? Do you think missed or apex missing professionals, you have to miss some apexes?
Absolutely, but still be able to win the race.
Yes, still within a shot here. This is Roman Frawler riding on board his BMW. That's Kwiatkowski. That's not for position, but most importantly for Roman Frawler, he can see Redford and Asbury in front of him still.
And he's chasing him down. He is trying everything he can to get past this pro driver here because he wants that position. He wants to get past Redford. And that BMW is going to be able to take these curves a lot better than that Ferrari can.
I think a lot of the international audience is just surprised that we don't pronounce it BMW, like so many think people from North America pronounce it. I've never heard anyone actually pronounce it like that. But that's one of those stereotypes.
I mean, I guess that might be something you would hear from somebody with a very stereotypical accent from maybe the southern part of America.
All
but
right.
I grew up in
right,
Canada,
sir.
so what
All
you
right.
hear from me is a bit of a Canadian accent. So.
Isn't that right, eh? Sorry. I had to get my one in.
Fair enough, eh?
I'm sorry. I'll keep my stick on the ice for the rest of this race. I do apologize. George Kwiatkowski, Team BDG, in the middle, the hot dog in the bun, if you will. Sarah, quick question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely, but it's also a taco.
We get along, so we just see. This is what happens. So normally, I'm here with a British guy, right, and I'm arguing all the time with him. With you, it's so simple. We agree, folks. A hot dog is a sandwich. Pineapple usually doesn't belong on pizza, and if you put two lasagnas together, you still have one lasagna.
I have to disagree on the pineapple thing, but I say only when it's grilled pineapple, because it removes a bit of the moisture and makes it less sweet. It caramelizes a little bit. You get that same effect as like a caramelized onion, and then it's just perfect.
There's another argument, a less popular one. Is pizza a pie? And I think by definition it is. Because it's dough and toppings, right, that you put in the oven. I think by definition it is. And it's called a pizza pie, right, in certain parts of the world. So I think it technically is, though for whatever reason, calling a pizza a pie is stranger than calling a hot dog a sandwich to me. We're off topic a little bit, but welcome to Night Owl.
Welcome to Night Owl, where pizza is actually toast.
Oh no. Ostrichar's here in a bit of a fight with Jones. Bryn looks to be defending that spot, at least for now. Gets the better run off the corner. Jones able to hang on to that in the Lamborghini. Two Lamborghinis in the race. Remember, or excuse me, Bryn's in the Ferrari. Ostrichar's is the one in the Lamborghini. Two Lamborghinis in the race tonight in this season. You love to see it. The new Evo. Have you had a chance to drive the new Lambo Evo 2?
I actually have. I've been preparing for the World Tour a little bit and testing out some of these newer cars, and I did notice the Ferrari is a very, very fun car, very stable, very quick, amazing sound. It just eats tires for breakfast.
I love Bryn Jones. He's Welsh, obviously, you can tell by the flag, but he also carries that on the car with him. You love to see that. Representation of all sorts here in Night Owl. Of course, for the uninitiated, Night Owl was started specifically to attract an American audience, North and South America, to give them a better, more early in the day time slot, and or a later in the day time slot rather, as opposed to what time we're normally starting is about 2 or 3 p.m. And the Night Owl Season 1 was a huge success. We had drivers from all over. What we could have never have guessed, and I repeat this ever so often, but what we could have never guessed is the response from the European crowd, the Australian crowd. They're all over the place, showing that whatever hour of the day it is, they will show up and they will race.
It reminds me a lot of when I first started sim racing. I was living on the west coast of North America, and all those races that I was joining were starting at 11 in the morning.
Oh,
I was going to bed at 6 in the morning at the time because I was staying up all night. So I would take a nap, get on there, and I would just be so stoked to race.
Yeah, we get that too from some of our Australian crowd. We've had Asia and Oceania related championships before where it's kind of like Night Owl, where you have more usual time zones for them to start, as Roman Frawler off into the dirt, and that's going to allow Inigo Lopez through. So another spot lost for Roman Frawler, the second time they went off in that corner, and they've got to be a little bit frustrated now.
And that sort of frustration is only going to continue to drive that hunger, drive that aggression that's pushing these drivers to end up door to door with each other. Oh, we have a driver going a little bit off there, but he manages to keep control and bring it back onto the track. Great job with that.
I didn't even see it. I'll be honest, I'm looking directly at the monitor. You saw something I didn't see.
Oh, my feed is a little bit behind. Allow me to refresh it.
I'm not particularly surprised. George Kwiatkowski, particularly surprised that you saw something I didn't. Just for clarification, George Kwiatkowski still trying to get by Redford. Was that a opportunity? Was that a look? No, it was not. Ran off the track, did Mike Redford, but not far enough to allow Kwiatkowski through. I will give George this. very patient here with somebody who he's not really fighting for points for. I gotta say, you love to see it, a patient driver, hoping, looking to make an opportunity occur, but not over-eager, it doesn't appear.
Not being overeager can also be interpreted as basically playing it safe with his car and not risking it around a driver who might be a little more unpredictable than he's expecting.
It's a fair point. Defensive line for Redford here. He is defending Kwiatkowski because he knows what's behind him. He actually has to defend Kwiatkowski, but he doesn't have it to anymore.
Oh,
Zoricic,
no.
contact with George Kwiatkowski. That's going to send him into the inside of the Dunlop hairpin. He makes it all the way to the guardrail, and that has relieved the pressure from Mike Redford, but in a very unexpected way, and it's come to blows again down into the hairpin. Sarah, tell us what you see here.
As we can see, you have cars coming in here. He takes the wide swing in, comes in behind, and he just cuts off too much for the 175 who's beside him. And it just results in him spinning out. It's hard to tell if they were side by side in time for that to be a valid line for that driver. But now we see them coming in on the pit. Hopefully it's not too much damage to repair.
Well, they're going to get their pit stop done here one way or another. Kwiatkowski spun around. Of course, George will say that was all Zoricic's fault because he spun me. Zoricic is going to argue, I was there. Why did you continue to turn right? It's going to be one of those, you saw the replay. You make up your own mind of what you saw there. Neil Pimlott, who's had their fair share of fun so far early on in this race. They've settled down and trying to get back on the back of Grim Lilith. Lilith able to get by them earlier on, but they're back together again. Sarah, you ever find on the racetrack that the one driver that you really didn't want to have to race that week, or for whatever reason, you ended up racing with the most? I kind of feel like that's happening with Lilith and Pimlott right now.
I personally have never, because I love racing against everybody on the track that I can. But I can understand for some drivers that I might be that driver they don't like racing against. Mostly because I'm a new driver.
I'm just gonna say it. I always hate racing against Tom Bryan. Love the guy to death. Smart guy, very fun guy to hang around. But I just hate racing the guy. Just absolutely hate it. Because I know usually he's gonna fight me for it. He's gonna think it's funny, and he might also hit me. So you know, look, I'm not into the business of calling people out, but I work with the guy. He knows it. I know it. Now everybody knows it. But and it just so happens that when I do race, I do end up around him ever so often. So there it is. Neil Pimlott, though, and Grim Lilith having a rethink here, thinking about having another fight at it. Two drivers have completed their mandatory pit stop for the night, Kwiatkowski and Bryn Jones. Bryn Jones had contact of their own a few laps ago. Let's take a look. Bryn Jones in the 06. Off the track in Old Hairpin. Oh, and he just collects the 74. Absolutely horrible crash there between the two of them. And that's the car we're missing. We're missing the 74.
We are missing car 74. With the incidents they have been involved in up till now, it must have just finally been the straw that broke the camel's back and sent him into retirement for the night. Hopefully the driver can recover a little bit and be ready for the next series.
Certainly is, and that's an excellent segue. I'm going to take it. If you haven't heard, there's still time to sign up for the Monday Championship, the Mini British GT. The races are quite interesting. It's British GT-esque. There's races that are 2 30-minute races. There's hour races. And I think there's hour-and-a-half races as well. Still time to sign up, do your pre-queue, and be on the grid for Monday. And don't worry about what your pace is. We have got classes for everybody. All you got to do is do your pre-queue. We'll put you in a class where you can race and be comfortable. Sign up, still available at racerci.com. Also, still time to sign up for the Spa 24-hour, the RCI one-off event. Spots available, time available. As I've just seen the 91, I'm pretty sure, of Steer go off of the racetrack. That's Tim Ireland is who I've clicked on there. It's Marvin Steer. Let's see if I can... Oh, still all over the place. Let's see. It's going to be a long replay, Sarah, but let's take a look, see what happened. Oh, he's already crashed.
Oh.
Well, by
So
virtue...
he's getting back onto the track here, relatively smooth, nothing too bad.
By virtue of it not showing up as contact with anything, we are forced to believe here that it was an unforced error, maybe too much curb. The car slid around on him, and yeah, that's where we picked him up. The car very clearly loose, just maybe a little bit too much curb, a little bit too much wheel in it, looped it around.
That's always unfortunate, and it looks like he's possibly got some flat spotted tires by the way his car fishtails under braking zones. And he said the last thing you really want on a track like this, where you have to be ready to hit those brakes firm and hard.
Got to be smooth. You got to keep it cool for the hour and a half. I'm quite curious about that. We mentioned prior to going green tonight that track limits could be a problem. I think we've seen several cars go over or exceed those track limits. Remember, you get 3 warnings, and on the 4th time violating track limits, you get a very unfavorable drive-through penalty. You got to serve that within 3 laps. Nobody has got that yet tonight. Nobody has sped in the pit lane, which if that only 3 cars have come in the pit lane, to be fair, but I don't think we've had a single race this season where somebody hasn't got a pit road penalty. Could be wrong about that, but I tend to believe that we have had a slew of those penalties this season thus far.
A lot of drivers get incredibly complacent, don't practice their pit lane entry. They don't figure out where the best point to start slowing down is, and it costs them.
Joe Dahlberg has caught Timothy Flanger. It was a 3-second gap thereabout a while ago. It's down under a second. Timothy Flanger, again, another one of those drivers that doesn't usually overdrive their car. They drive to sort of the limit, but they will race you hard. There's no way Joe Dahlberg is going to be expecting to be let through here. These two race each other on a regular basis. This is going to be a fight.
Again, that hunger just kind of rears its head here again. Dauber's definitely wanting to push past this Porsche here. And I guess we'll have to sit here and see if he's able to do it.
A little bit of distance there out of the hairpin. No chance of a move.
I would be honestly surprised if he was able to pull off a move there. The Porsche's acceleration out of tight turns like that is unmatched in this simulation.
And if it's been a while since you have watched ACC racing, the Porsche is not nearly as bad in a straight line as it used to be. It used to be an absolute dead fish in the water for many years. It was just assumed that you were going to have superb turning ability and braking ability, but you were going to suffer on the straights. That isn't necessarily the case. Is it the best car in a straight line? No, absolutely not. But is it as bad as it used to be? Also no.
No, yes, the car is also a lot more stable than it used to be. This car used to be known for absolutely destroying new drivers to the game who were interested in Porsches.
Guilty.
This thing, same. Absolutely learned so many things driving the Porsche, though. It taught me to control spins, catch myself fishtailing. It's a great car for learning, but it takes a lot more work than anything else to get the speed out of.
Our veteran broadcaster, Stewie, he is a Porsche fan, and I had never really tried it out too much until he talked so highly of it. I decided to give it a go. This is 1.7 patch, for those of you keeping up with that. This is pre-1.8, and it might have been 1.6 actually, but I digress. I drove it for 5 laps. I don't even remember what track it was. I drove it for 5 laps and said, how do you drive this thing? And I believe he said something to the effect of with a steering wheel.
Amazing. Just absolutely. I hope he said it with just the most deadpan voice as well.
Yeah, that's Stewie. But yeah, it's just, he told me, because it's not that bad. And I'm like, as compared to what? Riding a Comet? No, yeah, it handles better than that. But obviously,
only fractionally.
Yeah, only a little bit. Hey, we landed a rover on a Comet, right? Or a Probe,
actually, I think there's been a couple of them.
Yeah.
There's the Hayabusa one and a few others.
You have the best general knowledge about things. Normally, when I say stuff like that, people look at me weird. You're able to at least tell me I'm right or wrong. I do appreciate that.
I was always told I was a fountain of useless information, so I thought I would bring it to the sim
No,
racing
I didn't
community.
say that. I said...
I know you didn't.
I would never say that. I wouldn't call that useless information. Because
Very fair.
Because come on, we're landing spacecraft on objects hurtling through space. That's incredible. You know who's hurtling through this race? We are 50 minutes left to go. Zoricic right on the back of Inigo Lopez again, as we went through a period where there were no battles on the racetrack, and now all of a sudden we have several just up the road. Grim, Lilith, and Neil Pimlott have re-instigated their fight as well. But Ivo Zoricic trying to get by Inigo Lopez. These two are familiar with each other thanks to this championship. I don't know if they ever raced each other prior to this series, but they've gotten well acquainted here in season 14 of Nida.
Absolutely, and Zoricic is really pushing hard there. He needs to place higher than Lopez and Redford today, otherwise he risks losing his first place position in standings for silver.
Absolutely nailed it. That is what's at stake here. Remember, this is the final round of the championship. No double points, none of that, just regular points for this round of the championship, the traditional 90-minute finale of the season, which, when season 15 arrives, means that Donington Park is the racetrack that the season will start at, because those are also the normal rules of Night Out. Night Out is the night where, I always said, where we let our hair down, so to speak. Sometimes I mean that a bit more literally than others. Sometimes we make up rules to the pit requirement being random for every round. That's certainly one of them. And, of course, also the scheme of the races as well. Inigo Lopez pulled away from Zoricic and back onto the rear bumper of Redford. Keep in mind, this is all for P2 in the silver class. Asbury has just driven away 10 seconds nearly.
Absolutely shocking at just how far away here. I'm seeing that gap between those drivers, just 10 seconds is crazy. We're seeing such a similar gap between Daly and Flaminger right now. Daly is obviously running away with his race for first place. Provided that he continues to drive the way he does, he is going to be the second driver.
To tell you what kind of season it's been for Daly, he didn't even have to be here tonight. He could have signed out. He would have still been mailed the trophy, had already locked it up. If he wins tonight, that means that his drop round, Sarah, is going to be a win. He is going to lose max points for one round because he's just been that good, has refused to lose. Grim Lilith into the pit lane, one of the first of the top runners into the pit lane for their stop. Seal Mustang also in the pit lane. Looked like it went smoothly for Grim. No dramas there.
Always love to see when a driver gets a clean time trip through the pits. No penalties, just smooth kind of in and out sort of action. Last thing we want to do is see drivers with a stop and go.
Oh, for sure. I hate to see races broken up by little things like that. It's obviously, it's there to keep the race fair, I know, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad it is there. But I hate when it ruins a good battle like I think we're going to get with Pimlott and Grim. And speaking of Grim's pit stop, the quickest stop prior to that was Matthew Malcolm's 1:02. Grim was in the pit lane for a grand total of 56 seconds. A very quick stop, by far the quickest thus far.
Absolutely. Really impressive to see him in and out there. He must have timed his fuel perfectly. Let's see if that pays off.
Neil Pimlott into the pit lane. Inigo Lopez into the pit lane. And no, Sarah, you're not losing it. That's a Turner BMW car with the word tacos on the side. It is what that is.
I was starting to think I might have been, but I mean, he must be just a very large fan of tacos.
And who wouldn't, really? Lovely car and a lovely looking livery. The unmistakable legendary colors of Turner BMW, or Turner Motorsports rather. They don't always drive BMWs, of course, but closely enough associated with it. One of my favorite racing drivers in the world drives for Turner, Bill Auberlin. He's my spirit animal. He's an old man now, Bill Oberlin is. Still out there getting it done, collecting trophies. You love to see it.
Of course, you love to see it.
Jordan Daly into the pit lane from the lead. The Triple R BMW to the attention of the team. The 56 was the quickest on pit lane, but now that's been outdone by Indigo Lopez. Indigo Lopez did a 44.8, and that was a valid stop. Absolutely smoking in and out of pit lane. A big discrepancy between pit stop times. What's going on with that?
The only thing I can think of is people are repairing the damage from all those door-to-door hits. There was so many, almost too many to count at this point.
That's a fair assessment there, I think, and I'm pretty sure you are right on the money with that. Jordan Daly has the quickest lap of the race, and he is free from pit lane. That was a 56.5, so nowhere near the 44-second time we saw from Lopez. But 56, I would say that's going to be where we see a lot of the top drivers come in at. Neil Pimlott did a 58 as well. That's right around the ballpark of what we should expect. Now, keep in mind, devil's advocate, if Timothy Flamger comes down pit road and does a 44, he might be in the lead of this race.
He might be able to. I guess we'll have to see when that comes to that. One of the most amazing factors, I think, seeing Jordan come out of the pits there and still maintaining 4th in class really just shows how absolutely swift he's been this race.
Yeah, I think a lot of times with these races is whenever you're out there in front, and especially, remember there was a battle for P2, there's been a battle for P4, there's been a battle for P6 and P5, which is the silver podium positions. And when you're racing somebody like that, you're having to take defensive lines, and you are having to back up your corners or all these different techniques that you have to do that aren't necessarily cohesive to running the quickest lap times, defensive driving that is. Clearly you're going to be running slower lap times, and you're going to allow people like Jordan Daly, like Timothy Flamger, who are not currently involved in a battle, to get away.
Exactly.
Joe Dahlber in and out of the pit lane, a 56.7 for them. That's pretty much in the wheelhouse of what I believe we can expect. Zorsic in the lane as well. Phil Roberts in the lane. And out of the lane is Phil Roberts. That was a 1-minute stop for Phil. Wonder if that was damage or maybe an adjustment on that car.
I'm going to err on the side of caution, saying he's probably cleaning up that arrow. Getting a few extra seconds, especially with 43 seconds left in the race, is probably not a terrible idea if he's finding he's losing more time per lap.
I think that's a smart choice. I probably would have never thought of that without you. 1 minute 2 for Zorsic as they leave the pit lane. Timothy Flamger does, what was that, 2 more laps than Jordan Daly? And into the pit lane themselves. Daly was in on lap 29. So yeah, 2 or 3 more laps thereabout for Timothy Flamger as they bring the Alpha Sim Sport number 19 Porsche into the pit lane. I believe that's Tim Ireland leaving the pit lane, and by virtue of that, also unlapping themselves for the time being. Flamger down and away. What's this time going to look like? And it is a 57.071. So not quicker, and that brings Joe Dahlber right to their back bumper.
That really, really highlights just how fast car number 10's pit stop is. I wonder what their secret was.
Yeah, it's a 44. Nobody else is sub 50. And Lopez's time was a 44, and it wasn't a cheaty pit stop because it counted. It counted as a valid stop. I don't know what the secret is. Well, I'd be interested to ask them or see post-race what they have to say. The best first name in sim racing down the pit lane, Lee Kettle, the 962. Mike Redford out in front of the field. I'm doing this for you, Mike. Mike Racing leading this thing.
Hey, there you go, Mike. Keep it up.
The only other car to not pit is Kevin Boss, P5 at the moment. Still has a pit stop left to give. Redford leading the race and in his class. Now, this could be, I mean, it's obviously on purpose, right? But this could be purposeful, them going along. Everybody else in their class, other than Kevin Boss, of course, has shot their shot, basically. Redford could be answering the call by going along, saying, no, I'm not coming in. This was my strategy all along, and we'll see where it finds them. Normally, they're trying to short pit each other. Occasionally, though, going long does work. We'll see if it works on this occasion.
Quite often you see some of these drivers and they get basically two mindsets. You find the drivers who just will pit at their absolute first opportunity and get back out there and stay focused for the rest of the race. But you'll have other drivers who will try to extend as long as they can, taking advantage of that fresh, clean air that they're going to get by having other drivers head off the track and see if they can't, you know, make up some time that way.
Blamger would have very much liked there to have been a gap. Joe Dauber is quite happy that now there's no gap. It was 6 to 8 tenths prior to the pit stop sequence. It's, how the British say it, it's not. There isn't one. There is not a gap, realistically, between these two cars. Joe Dauber just invented a gap by driving off the racetrack. Sarah, how far off to the left of the S's do you have to go before you get a track limit warning?
It's razor thin. Problem is you have to be able to take that corner.
Oh, he's gonna crash it. The Ferrari's gonna crash it. Was that Matthew Malcolm that just went off? It was contact with one of the lead cars. And Malk Racing.
Car 19.
That was Timothy Flamger, the contact. Let's take a look.
Just a little bit of the bump there, and he just could not regain control. It's hard to tell if that was net code or just a little bit of getting too close to each other, but that was a heavy hit for Malcolm, and that looks like that's going to put them back too far to be able to do anything for the rest of this race.
Backed it into the corner. The last driver I saw back it into the wall was Ryan Gill off the nose of Ted Edwards. The last time I saw a car hit the wall that hard in that corner. Rather unfortunate. Such a strange incident, too. Matthew Malcolm will not appreciate that. He will certainly have some hurt feelings. Several laps down, just trying to get to the end of the race. They're in the pit lane. Severe damage, unknown if they're going to continue, but Redford continues to lead this race. And at this point, it's obvious this is the game plan. This has probably been the game plan this entire time for Mike Redford.
Absolutely, and it's hopefully going to pay off for him. Be interesting to see when he decides that he's going to feel ready enough to come back into pit, because he still has to clear those pit requirements. Otherwise, he's not gonna finish this race.
Daly's catching less than 2 seconds, just about a second now. How does Daly play this? He's led the majority of this race. Clearly, he's got a faster car, knows Redford has to pit, but only has about a 10-second lead on Timothy Flamger. He can't really afford to dilly-dally here, or as the British would say, shilly-shally. I'm meeting you halfway, Britain, by the way, with your Britishisms. You can't shilly-shally here. You do have to get a bit of a move on. Is Redford going to accommodate that, though, is the big question.
That is a big thing yet to be seen right now. Right now, Redford's putting up laps in high 28s right now. His tires have to be getting to near the end of their usable life. Not really sure if he can continue to keep this pace up. And I think the biggest thing that's worth pointing out to is how he has managed to push up to Redford despite having pitted, and Redford is not.
Yeah, it just goes to show you all the fights that the 95 has been in. They've been in a literal fight since the drop of the green flag for, it feels like, every position of the podium in the silver class. And I like what Redford did there. He knew Daly had the run coming through the S's. He didn't fight it. He gave Daly the inside. Of course, Redford, that's a smart move for him because he's not trying to lose time. Redford's trying to advance themselves in the silver class. Knows his fight's not with Daly. Daly was able to recognize that whenever Redford gave him the inside lane and didn't really turn in on him. Gave him well enough room, did Redford, on Daly to make that pass happen. And now Daly says thank you very much. He, of course, appreciates that. And Redford does as well, because he didn't lose really any time to the cars that he's fighting, which at this point looks like it's Inigo Lopez and Asbury. Lopez did beat, probably should have known this, Lopez did beat Asbury. Asbury was leading the silver class, but of the cars that have pitted, Lopez with his 44-second stop, that was, what, nearly 12 seconds quicker than anyone else on pit lane that time through. Lopez is able to leapfrog and maybe your leader in silver, depending on what happens here with Redford.
With a 25-second minimum for pitting and a 30-second automatic from taking tires, I'm just not sure how they managed to get in and out of the pit lane at that time.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad. That tells me that the requirement must be just 1 liter of fuel. We do apologize. Normally we have somebody who tells us what the requirement is set, but
yeah.
We did not tonight.
Well, I could be wrong on this. I believe when you take tires, you can take a full tank of fuel and it'll be the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And tires are a required thing, so fueling would have happened.
Tonight?
Are they not required tonight? Sorry, I'm going based off of what it said. Oh, I see potential pit requirements. Potential. I bet you tires are not required tonight and they didn't take tires.
Yeah, I wonder if tonight it was a straight up 1 liter of fuel required, which some people at home wonder, how is that interesting? It's a lot more strategic than you think it is on the surface. On the surface, it doesn't look too crazy.
But when you look at it like from a deeper sort of point of view, you see that in a race that requires all these things, you're going to have drivers that might want to push to the very end of a fuel tank, try to get them much as they can. On average, an ACC fuel tank runs about 75 minutes without fuel saving. Some cars are better than others. The Ferrari, for instance, can probably make it to 80 or 90 minutes on a single tank of fuel if he's doing well. And I'm starting to think that might be what Redford's doing. He might be just choosing to go with 1 tank of fuel and try to push for as long as he can. Because that pit window has only 26 minutes left on it.
That'd be incredible pace, especially early on in this race, if some of the other cars were light and he was still able to hang with them and lead this race in the silver class. Big battle here. Joe Dahlberg continuing to hound the back of Flamger. Still nothing doing. Just about got around him. Had to fall back in line again as they race down into the old hairpin. These two cars racing each other hard, but mostly, I gotta say, being quite respectful of each other, realizing it's no small potatoes here. This is for P2. You don't want to wreck somebody this late in the season. You don't want to make somebody mad. You want to go out with a bang, but not a literal one.
Absolutely. We definitely don't want to find yourself going into a wall instead of going over the finish line. Being able to see those fireworks is just one of the absolute treats you get for finishing that race.
Of course, arguing over final positions in the championship standings, that comes with bragging rights. And these drivers remember that you remember your losses, you remember your wins, you remember your good championships, and you try to forget your bad ones. They always say, as a racing driver, you never really remember the wins, you just remember the losses. That's a half truth. I remember some of the really good wins, but I can't back up the second part. I remember every time I blew it for myself.
But the question is, Jesse, do you remember your first win?
In multiplayer, I don't. I'm completely unaware. I remember the first time I raced a real racing game, and that was Toga back on the PS1. I played pole position in the arcade. I'm old, folks. You have to get over it. But
okay, we both are.
Back in my day, we had these things called arcades, and you used to put a quarter in them, and you got to play a video game. And I remember playing that, but that obviously that's quite old technology. The first time I remember genuinely believing in the racing was Toka Race Driver, the original. And that was what I remember there. But I don't actually remember the first one. It would have been on a papyrus sale way back in the day.
Wow, for the people who are playing at home and watching, Papyrus is the company that is the progenitor for the modern iRacing game.
Oh, yes. I used to, Sarah, I don't know if you did this. I used to be up at 2 a.m. racing on the simulator, if you want to call it that. We didn't have sim rigs back then, but we had wheels and pedals and force feedback. It was coming of age with several of the things at the time. But we would long distance dial Hawaii at 2 a.m. to race. They were called the Hawaii servers. And the reason you do it at 2 a.m., long distance rates were cheap.
Well, I never did that. I do remember playing on a wheel a game called 4x4 EVO2.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
I played it on PC, and it was my first introduction to using a wheel with a racing game, and I still look very fondly back on that game. But
you have just smacked me in the face with nostalgia. Do go on.
Yes, for the people who don't know, it was a very arcadey 4x4 racing game that had a bit of a open world sort of crawling mode as well. Great fun looking back. My first sim racing win, at least since I got into sim racing, was ARCA cars at Daytona. That was something I think I'll never forget.
Congratulations on your survival. That's sometimes those ARCA races are harder to win than the Cup races. So just a different crowd around those ARCA races.
Definitely. The brakes on those cars do not exist. You're better off putting your foot out the thing like Fred Flintstone.
By the way, I'm being corrected by one of Jordan Daly's friends. Hello, by the way, to everybody in the chat. I know it's been a while since we've talked, but it sounds like we just broke up or something. I don't mean it that way, but I was being corrected that they don't say shilly shally, they say dilly dally in the UK. I'd be willing to believe that maybe your parents did say shilly shally.
I have never heard shilly shally growing up in Canada, so while we do get a bit of a bleed over in Commonwealth kind of language, I've never heard shilly shally myself.
I'm trying to guess what the verbiage would be in Canada. Don't hang a boot?
We don't say about that way. We say about.
Well, I mean, I've watched South Park. I think they do a pretty good job.
You mean two non-Canadians making a show?
Yeah.
What?
About a place they don't live, by the way. South Park, Colorado.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're from South Park. They're not. It's just such a weird thing.
It is very strange.
Well, welcome to the RCI podcast.
The RCI podcast.
Yeah, we've gotten to
that. Is that the next step? Are we starting a podcast now?
We've had a podcast very briefly before.
Oh, there we go.
And sometimes these broadcasts turn into the RCI podcast. This is certainly becoming one of them. Side-by-side racing here. Has he done it this time? No, he has not. Joe Dauber is trying everything off of every corner to get by Flamger and take the number 2 spot. It's been good racing. It's been close racing. It was nearly death-defying racing into Redgate that time. Scared me. It scared Dauber as well. They survived to race another day. Let's take a look at this.
While we take a look here, I thought I'd bring up that Mike Redford did pit lap for him.
Scary moment there.
That was scary.
Didn't expect Flamger to have to brake that much or brake in the middle of the track where he was. Expected him to roll through the corner. He didn't roll through the corner, and that scared Dauber. So what inevitably happened right there, Dauber's little jink on the steering was to just not ditch the car, but just enough movement laterally to avoid hitting Flamger and not lose time. That's a veteran move. You often see that go wrong, but that's what Dauber was doing there. Dauber knew all I need is to take a little bit of energy, a little bit more time to decel, and again, got a little bit lucky that Flamger got off the brakes. Timothy probably doesn't realize how lucky he was to not get rear-ended into Redgate.
Absolutely. Sometimes those kind of moments can be just race destroyers, especially with him trying to push hard to try to maintain that second place. It could have been the end of it for both of them, depending on how much damage and where they hit.
Could be. Used to back in the day. Back in my day, the McLaren, you could not get nose damage on that car. If you got nose damage on the car, it completely killed the aerodynamics of it. It would not turn at all. I have no idea with this new evolution if that's still the case. I don't think it is, and even if it is, it's a way lesser extent. I've seen drivers in the Pro Esports Series have significant contact to the front of that car, and it still drive pretty decently, a little bit off the pace, but nowhere near as bad as it was once upon a time. Jordan Daly leads the race. He's absolutely out of here, trying to make it a perfect 5 for 5, and also trying to make it the second driver in the history of RCI to win a full championship series. It's only happened once before in the pro category. Could it happen here again tonight? 14.7 seconds to the good. It's all coming up daily. It's all been daily in this championship.
Now I just imagine Milhouse driving the car. Thank you for that mental image, Jesse. I will never leave my mind.
I don't even know what I said.
You said everything's coming up daily.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Okay, we mentioned South Park, right? We got The Simpsons in there.
Wayne's World.
Everything's
Simpsons.
coming up Milhouse. Listen, true story. Welcome to the RCI podcast. True story. I never stole as a child because in the season 1 episode where Bart steals the video game and he was publicly shamed, that was enough to keep me from stealing as a child.
As a child, I never stole because I was constantly afraid of getting whooped for it.
Also, that's a good. That's a you know, interesting style of parenting, but also a deterrent in that case. Neil Pimlott.
Good old parenting in the 90s.
I know it's not okay now. It was okay at the time. Neil Pimlott into the pit lane, and why is that exactly?
Let's see here.
They were in on lap 28. We're working lap 44. They were not
I'm attempting to find out.
They were not required to have 2 pit stops, but he has made one here on lap 43. That is a second pit stop, and that definitely looked like he either just took tires or just took a tiny bit of fuel. One way or the other.
It looks like he just took tires or just took fuel. Well, just fuel, because his pit stop is only 36 seconds. If he took tires, that would have been longer because it would have required him to come in and leave the pit in that time. With a 6-second pit, he came in for fuel.
Yeah, must have got the number wrong then?
I'm guessing a lot of these drivers were hoping that they could extend a lot more on a full tank of gas, not realizing that unless you're really setting that engine map down or you're driving a car like the Ferrari, you're not extending this car out long enough.
Well, there's the first real mistake. We haven't had any drive-throughs, which is actually quite incredible with 23 minutes of the race left. Nobody has run afoul of drive-throughs today, but that is the first mistake. Pimlott having to come in for what we suspect additional fueling late in this race. Realized they did not have enough in the car to make it to the end. Now, if he's done that, has anyone else done that? I hope not.
That's a good question. With some of these pits going a lot shorter than we realize, we might be seeing several other drivers that might have to dip in.
You definitely
drivers who
worry about
chose not
Lopez.
to take tires. Definitely. That's one of the drivers I'm paying close attention to, seeing what their overall lap times are. And one thing that is worth noticing is that they are slower right now than the driver ahead and behind them.
These
Might be because they chose not to take tires.
That's true too. These cars, of course, as it would appear, as if I went to the wrong car there. Did anyone notice that at home? Redford hit the curb there pretty hard. Redford, after the pit stop, settles in to 5th place in the class, so going long did not favor them. Ivor Zorsic right in front of them for 4th place. Redford trying to do anything off these corners to make up time, but certainly with the pit stop, we worry about some of the short pitters, like we said. The long pit stop hasn't worked for Redford. Asbury has cycled through to the lead in that silver class in front of Inigo Lopez, who, like we just said, was going just a bit slow. And I was going to explain, these cars do have fuel mix capabilities. You can do that on your wheel. Most every driver will have that mapped to something, or at least a hotkey, so that they can work with that. It's possible that Lopez is trying to save time in pit lane. It is saving fuel out there by running a leaner fuel map, and that will, of course, slow you down. My question is, if they are doing that, that's harder to come up with whatever number target you need to hit, because your fueling's not consistent. If you're running full out at the beginning, and now you're running fuel map 5, for instance, how do you calculate your fuel? You're just kind of hoping you have enough at that point.
Exactly, and if it does work out for them, and that is what they're doing, that is an absolute masterful use of their car.
Ooh.
Really impressive, though. Oh, that was a little bit of a fishtail, but they managed to regain control and keep control of it.
And didn't lose the spot, did not lose the position.
Which itself is mighty impressive. Props to the driver behind, too, for maintaining situational awareness and not ending up in a wreck with them during that.
Redford fans out wide from the S's there. Frawler Zoricic trying their best to take a good entry to the corner. They did. They didn't quite get all the curb on the right side of the track. Didn't need it. Got a good enough run to kite Redford down the straight. They were running off the racetrack. Speaking of Frawler and Bunch, they're right in front of this group, and Frawler ran off the racetrack. You don't see that very often in that particular spot.
Absolutely. Watching this battle with Zoricic and Redford right now is absolutely impressive. Redford is super hungry for that position. He's pushing. He really wants to see if he can, take advantage of the fact that he stayed out for that much longer to really push past these drivers. Because right now he is fresh. He's got fresh tires, fresh fuel, likely, judging by the time we're looking at. So he's going to be able to try to push back those positions that he might have lost by staying out a little bit too long.
Matthew Malcolm has called me out in chat saying, surely you must have stolen a pin or something. I actually do recall stealing something. It wasn't a pin. I stole 2 or 3 pencils from my 2nd grade teacher without permission. I do remember that. But listen, it was in the pursuit of higher education, okay? That's a little bit different.
All right, I'm calling the police right now.
Yeah, 2 pencils, 2 number 2 pencils. In what must that have been? 1991.
You heard it here today, everybody out there. We have an admission of guilt.
94, 95. They're continuing to race each other quite hard indeed. One of the cars off the pace, that's Lee Kettle saying, that is not my fight. I do not want to be involved in that. Gets out of the way. Zoricic hangs on, but down the inside now. Redford looking for it into the final turn. Will he finally have it? It's going to be a hip check, and it's going to be a spin. Ivo Zoricic hard into the pit wall.
Absolutely unfortunate for Zoricic. Zoricic had been pushing hard because he needed to have a finish ahead of Redford and ahead of Lopez today to continue to have that control, but it does not look like it's going to be.
This was all fine, but trying to rejoin the racetrack, and when I say fine, I don't mean the contact was fine. I feel like Redford could have left just a little bit more room there shortly, but Zoricic off the racetrack, and the spin, though, admittedly probably on them, trying to get back onto the track in a hurry, not lose time. 2 in the dirt, 2 in the grip. That is not how you make good traction, and looped it into the wall. Heavy damage to the Zipka Racing 175 Mercedes.
Absolutely. We can see the hood bouncing right now. That is confirmed front aero damage on this car, and that's the last thing you want to see. But for Lopez and Redford right now, that is a chance for them to potentially claw back and win the silver class. We'll have to see how that turns out, because Zoricic is already using his drop round from Suzuka.
Right you are. That's a good spot as well. Earlier on, a few laps ago, it looks like Roman Frawler had contact with Lee Kettle whenever There was a lapping maneuver. Kettle in the red Ferrari. Is this just going to be a little bit of a squeeze here? Yeah, just a little bit of a squeeze. Kettle won't appreciate that, saying, "Hey, I gave you the inside. I don't know why you had to come over on me like that." But move made. Frawler able to make that stick with no further incident. Of course, one car on the lead lap, one car off the lead lap in that instance. It's been a lot of close quarters, elbows out racing today. Sarah, what do you make of this? Has it been largely fair? Has it some of it been a little bit out of order for your taste?
There's been a lot of clean, what I would call clean door-to-door stuff that's just, drivers bumping each other, kind of trying to jockey for position. But there's been a few hits so far that I would think is something that I would expect a little better. But, at the end of the day, tempers flare. People make decisions that they might not make every day. So I'm not going to hold it against them.
I think it's last race of the championship. I'm going to echo your sentiment. I think it's last race of the championship. Everyone here is here to win. You don't show up 20-plus cars deep to a finale of a series, whether it's going your way or not, and not come out here trying to make a point, trying to race it out, and trying to get final point standings. Of course, no prize pool, nothing on the line except pride. I'm going to tell you something for a race car driver. Sarah, back me up on this. Pride's enough.
Pride is definitely the thing that drives almost every driver out there at this level. And, those little wins here can start to catapult into something more. You win here and there, you start to develop a rapport, people start to know you. Next thing you know, you're in the SRO race, getting commentated over by Jesse right here.
Well, I definitely did that to Flander. He would have probably have hoped that I would have said his name a little bit less or in a little bit better context today. I get to talk about him positively now. The number 19 Porsche absolutely going, able to stay out in front of Joe Dauber for what seems like half of the race already. Flander's doing a great job. Dauber's doing a great job too. A couple of little minute mistakes, running off the track just a little bit. Never put his car in too much danger. He stayed in the hunt. He still has a shot here. Lost a little bit of contact, though, with P2. He's going to have to rein that in. Final 15 minutes. And we talked about the track conditions earlier on. About 17 minutes shy of noon in sim time. Track's got hotter. It's 24 degrees C. And it's completely cloudy now. So there was a threat of rain. The rain hasn't come, but it is completely cloudy. And in case you are coming to the UK, it's never like this. It's sunny and beautiful all the time.
Of course, everybody knows that the UK is famous for their sunny skies and sandy shores.
I'm on the tourist board for the UK, can you tell?
Absolutely.
So bring your umbrella or parasol. What is the difference between a parasol and an umbrella?
I believe a parasol is for sun and a umbrella is for the rain. Chat can correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
No, I'm pretty sure you're right, but I'm about to mansplain a bit. Aren't they the same thing if you need them to be the same thing?
So I believe a parasol's material is not normally water resistant or waterproof, so the water would just eventually soak through and then get you.
You learn something new every day, folks. All right, I bet when you tuned in tonight to the Night Owl Season 14 finale, did not realize you were going to learn the difference between an umbrella and a parasol, but you have, and you're welcome. Redford on the back of Roman Frawler, as close as they could possibly be together. Frawler even runs off the racetrack, anticipating where that curve is. The curve. Why can't I say that? Sorry, I'm from the South. We don't speak English down here. Trying to anticipate where the curve was down that straight after the S's. Just went off the road just a little bit. Down the inside, Redford trying to make the move for P3. Steadily making their way back up the field and back into a podium spot is Mike Redford. Man, that pit stop may have put them back to P5 in class, but they have fought back with a vengeance. Zoricic obviously having their woes. Frawler now getting past here. 2.6 seconds in 12 minutes. Maybe with Lopez going just a bit slower, Sarah, Redford might have a shot at P2 here.
He might, and if he can manage to score that P2, that might be enough to put him forward. Right now, looking at this thing here, Mike Redford is currently sitting in third in his class at 169 points. Lopez is sitting second at 171. They are absolutely, between the two of them, battling for first place. So we're going to see what happens here, but it should be interesting.
Not just the race, the championship. You're not going to tell drivers this doesn't matter. Just because there's not a prize pool, just because all they win is an interview with Sarah Stant, Jesse Lee, which is a huge prize in my opinion. But they have to do their media tour with us. Beyond that, it's still worth it to win these races. It's still worth it to win these championships. You get to say, I won that championship. And there are drivers, Sarah, you know this as good as I do, that they'll tell you, I won an RCI champ in X year. Because
they will
matters.
Exactly. The amount of competition you see here at RCI, it ranges everything from the most beginning of drivers up to some of the most skilled. Sometimes you don't even realize it. You're racing against drivers that you see in SRO just right there next to you, and you're just able to see just how different that skill gap is. But when a driver gets a chance to win, it doesn't even matter if they won their class. Maybe they won AM, maybe they won silver, maybe they won pro that year. They will remember that for the rest of their sim racing career.
And for a lot of drivers, it's a progression. Grim Lilith is one of those drivers that has seen that progression. They started as an AM, they were a silver, they smashed AM, they smashed silver, now they're a pro. They're in the top 5 in pro. Jordan Daly, your champion-elect here tonight, the same thing. Started from the bottom, and now they are dominating championships as a pro. Daly brought that up to me the other day. Said, look, I started out from the bottom, just like so many other drivers did. And it's incredible to be where I'm at. Phil Roberts, same thing. Was an AM at some point, had been a silver for quite some time, and has just found pace. They'll Phil Roberts, being the person they are, will downplay their ability, but it's no question in my mind, they have pro pace. They've shown it this season. They deserve to be pro, and again, in the top 5 in pro. All drivers, all examples, coming from AM, working to silver, going to pro. Incredible scenes.
It just really shows that for the people who are watching, maybe you've never actually done sim racing. Maybe you just found this channel randomly. Or maybe, you're just starting and you feel demoralized when you see drivers put up times that are 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds faster than you, in different things. Practice will get you there. You will improve if you put in the time. And the most important thing you can do is ask questions of those drivers who have come before you, because those drivers are going to bring invaluable information to you. Take advantage of it.
Take advantage of her advice, folks. That is sound advice if I've ever heard it. And you won't get any better for free. I can tell you that. That is absolutely the case. And you never get better if you don't practice, and you never get better if you don't race against people that are better or faster than you. That's how you learn, and you do it in a hurry, too. A lot of people think it's a painstaking process, and it can be at times, especially if you're not particularly acclimatized to a certain track or car. But following somebody, getting tips, watching other people, learning from mistakes, it all accrues, and you do get better. Living proof here. The reason we have, in RCI, we have the AM, the Silver, and the Pro Series, and even the Rookie Champ, actually, now that I think about it, for true rookies. The reason we have all these different splits is so that you get that practice, so that you get to race with people near your skill level and above your skill level. You get to go to work. You get to learn what it takes to be a pro. So many drivers rose through the ranks. So many of these drivers, not only in this race, but in general, start from the bottom and they end up making it in the pro, not only field here, but in esports in general. Talked about Flamger. He's an esports pro these days. Jordan Daly, the same thing. A lot of other drivers besides. I'm not going to name some and not name all of them, otherwise that they get mad at me. But a lot of pro drivers is the point. 7 minutes left in the race today. Time to do a little bit of housekeeping. Daly out in front from 15.7 seconds. The battle for P2 is still on at this point. The Silver Championship still at stake. Redford did get by Inigo Lopez and did it so quickly that in the midst of us talking, we didn't see it. It never flashed red on my screen. I have a little tool that tells me when people are close. It must have been a very quick pass. Lopez down to P3, And this man, Mike Redford, up to P2 again. Incredible stuff.
Absolutely. Seeing these drivers continue to push for this last little minute. We're down to only 6 minutes and 25 seconds left on this timer. I don't think we're going to see too much more change in position, but deep down, I think I kind of hope I do. I love seeing that last minute push for that finish line, as long as another driver's back out, because that's the last thing you ever want to see.
Donington, and I don't have an official statistic for this, so take this with a grain of salt, folks, but Donington, in my recent memory, has the most last lap passes and last lap calamities of any track I can remember. Second place is Zolder, everybody's favorite racetrack. Sarah, I know you like that track, yeah?
I don't think at any point in my life I've ever said that I liked Zolder. But I'm also an outlier because I love Snetterton.
I think there are a lot of people that do appreciate Snetterton for what it is. And I've heard quite a few people, Porsche drivers and McLaren drivers as well, Bentley back in the day as well, were like, oh, I love Snetterton, it's a great racetrack. And other drivers, not so much. It's not so much their cup of tea, but Snetterton does put on some fantastic races. But out of all the racetracks that we go to, Donington and Zolder are the tracks that have the most calamity befall drivers in the final couple of laps. I'm not trying to jinx anybody, and I'm certainly not trying to jinx anybody when I say this. Not a single drive-through today. Not a single drive-through.
Not a single drive-through is deeply impressive by this point. Also, sorry about that. I lost connection for a moment. We have had a bit of a storm over the last few days here, and it's left the internet a little bit shaky.
Not a problem at all. Sil Mustang Racing Tim Ireland for 15th place. Points on offer here for this pass. Ireland on the inside has to yield. Mustang able to hold on to that position, and it looks like Tim Ireland just about lost the race car, but somehow gets it back in control. And
that was amazing. It looked like he engaged super glue tires.
Something like that, for sure. Final 4 minutes or so of the race. Got to do some more housekeeping for you. A big thank you to all of our partners here at RCI that not only bring this race, but every race to you. Big thank you to AK Esports for more information about how they can help you with your sim racing endeavors the same way they do with us and their support. Visit akesports.it for more information. Big thank you to them. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be racing. You wouldn't be watching this race right now. DigitalMotorsport.com, your one-stop shop for sim racing and all the best brands from all the top people. Digital Motorsports also has a bespoke sim racing sim rig builder, one of a kind. If you've seen this there, it's incredible stuff. You go on their website, you pick your hardware, you pick your sim rig, they build it for you, they show you a visualization of it. It's first in its class.
Absolutely amazing stuff for sure. It's definitely worth checking out. I hope everybody gets a chance to.
Go setups, of course, if you're looking to gain a little bit of lap time or just find your pacing at some of the racetracks. Well, Go Setups has the setups for you. They've got esports level setups or safer alternatives for the every driver. If you're not interested in hanging it all out, they've got you covered over at Go Setups. Go visit them and pick up a setup pack. They offer single setups or setup packs. The 6 is off the racetrack. That's Bryn Jones in 18th place. They're sitting in the infield. Should be no further issue, I hope. Fanatec is the industry leader in direct drive sim racing hardware. They just announced, Sarah, $199 for your direct drive base. Build your bundle beyond that, but $199 for your CSL direct drive base. An incredible value over at Fanatec.
I saw that with the purchase of a pedal and a rim, you can get that base for only $199. In fact, you can get the same base that I have. And let me tell you, I absolutely love my Fanatec. I have it with the McLaren wheel and just the standard pedals, and that was a massive upgrade over the G29, let me tell you.
All that's missing is a chef's kiss. I approve of that. I do like that McLaren wheel as well. While you're over there, talking about wheels, we talked about this during the SRO 24-hour. Fanatec makes a real racing wheel that BMW use. You can buy it and use it on your sim rig. How insane is that as well? But yeah, $199, you buy the bundle. That $199 covers the base. You add on a wheel and a pedal set as well at an extra cost, and you get the base for $199. Incredible stuff over at Fanatec. Use our affiliate link. Let them know that we sent you. Doesn't cost you a single thing to use it. Thank you very much for doing so.
Only 70 seconds left in this race. Absolutely gonna see some real pressure from these drivers. With 777 here with only 0.6 behind Flamager. Absolutely gonna be tight.
Yeah, that's why we're looking at him right now. I've lost control of the tool. So we're going to focus on Joe Dauber here. This is the last lap. Jordan Daly has crossed the line, which means this is the last lap of the race. These drivers getting ready to take the last lap, or start the last lap, I should say. And in the meantime, if you're looking to improve your driving ability, like so many of the drivers here have at RCI, you can go to Driver 61. You can use our discount code to get 25% off your driver coaching when you do one-on-one sessions and full-on racing schools and racing classes. Driver 61 has you covered.
Invaluable sort of knowledge you can learn from those kind of things. It's so worth it.
Certainly is indeed. The final seconds tick away from the hourglass. Jordan Daly on his way to victory and a clean sweep of the championship. Timothy Flamker trying their best to keep pace with Joe Dauber in front, but it might not work out. Joe Dauber hounded him all race long for Our Souls Incorporated, and he's just about got it done in time for the finish of the race. Jordan Daly for Triple R comes across the line. He's gone 5 for 5. Only the second driver in RCI history to do it in the pro class. Jordan Daly, your winner throughout the entire championship, and again here today at Donington. Just incredible stamina that driver has had. Joe Dauber is going to come across the line and give up the position. Is he giving up the position there to Timothy Flamger? Yes, he did. As we got Zorsic hit the wall, Joe Dauber comes to the line, hits the brakes. Flamger comes in P2. Joe Dauber is P3. As the rest of the drivers start to cycle through, trying to find Phil Roberts. There he is. Phil Roberts for Kaiju Racing caps off an impressive season and finishes in 4th place here tonight.
Congratulations, everyone, on an amazing race. And a special congratulations to Jordan Daly. He managed to put together a absolutely dominant season. One like we haven't seen in quite a while in this series.
Grim Lilith comes
We're gonna have to make a whole new
line.
class for him, aren't we?
Super pro. Grim Lilith comes across the line and could not find Astbury. They were buried in the cars beyond pit lane, but Astbury comes home to win it in the silver class over Redford, and Inigo Lopez are your podium positions. Frawler, Zorsic, Kiakowski, Boss, Pimlott, Steer, Ireland, Mustat, Kettle, Jones, and Malcolm, your drivers on the track at the end. Bryn Jones and Matthew Malcolm in the pit lane, of course, at the end of that race. Let's take a look at the final timetable here. Show you the final results today. Jordan Daly, what can you say? Just impeccable.
There's just nothing that can be said beyond just that massive gap. 18 seconds to the driver behind him. Crazy.
What we're going to try and do, and I can't promise this, is we're going to try and get the final championship points tally and show them to you before we sign off here tonight. We'll see if we can do just that, but if we can't, please don't hold me to that. I'm not in control of such things. Sarah, it was nice having you with us here tonight, and I've got to ask, what did you think of the night out experience from this side?
Absolutely great to see. Some of the most uh, violent racing I think I've seen in a while, but in a way that was far more interesting. Not a lot of hits that I would say were too suspect, just a lot of just door to door trading paint, just like the old kind of days of racing. You love to see it.
Yeah, it really was that. A couple of just reacting to what Bart Macha has just sent me. I do apologize. He's letting me know that we're good for the standings, but I will say there were some beating and banging. You had that throughout the entire series this year or this season. Today, though, very clearly they were at a track where they could take it to each other, and they certainly did at times. Got out of hand a couple of times. Most of the accidents, though, single car incidents, which is, you don't want incidents, but if you're going to have them, they might as well be single car.
Exactly. You know, as unfortunate that is, it at least keeps the overall racing relatively together.
Certainly does. I'm trying to figure out if we have, I know we have final points. I'm trying to make sure that I have them. So do bear with me for a moment as we try to bring that up. I might not be able to bring that up, but I can read them to you if the results have been uploaded. And it certainly looks like that has been the case. Jordan Daly, no surprise, has won the championship in pro, 285 points. Timothy Flamger, 235. Phil Roberts, 199 points, takes third place. Neil Pimlott in fourth, 177. Marvin Steer in fifth place, 152 points. Joe Dauber, 146, 1 point behind him in seventh. George Kiakowski at 145. Grim Lilith, with their part-time schedule that they've ran, 140 points, very respectable there. Matthew Malcolm in ninth place, 102 points. Olivier Kierton in 10th place, 87 points. Harry Conway, the one round that they entered, 44 championship points. Everybody else had signed out of the championship. In the silver class, Mike Redford has won the silver championship by 3 points, 234 points for Mike Redford, and that is your silver champion for season 14. Ivor Zoricic in second place, 231 points, and right behind them, Inigo Lopez, 224, rounds out your silver podium. Adna Pusina, 207 points in fourth place. Tim Ireland is top five with 165 points. Kevin Boss, 161 in sixth. Sale Mustak, 149 in seventh. Lee Kettle, 136 in eighth place. Bryn Jones with 109 points in ninth place. Roman Frawler in 10th with 101 points. Alan Astbury with 96 points and the win today, capping off that season. And Oshrichar did not get any points, but also did not retire from the championship. Well, we've got your champion in silver class with us here. Mike Redford, do you got us?
Oh god, that was so stressful. I yeah, I had no idea. I won until the end. I was really banking on having the fastest lap and like a clean sweep because Asbury had me on pace today easily in the race. I don't know how he was able to sustain that.
So, Mike, talk us through it a little bit. You go really long. You lead the race overall for a little bit. Was that always the strategy call, or was that improvisation?
That was the strategy because I was hoping for rain that never came because there is not a speck of wind at Donington today. So that was enjoyable. I was really hoping there'd be. I was trying to get to the half hour to go, hoping there'd be some rain in the last 10 minutes maybe, cause everyone to pit twice and maybe I can do one stop. But but luckily, I guess I had the tires at the end. I think me and possibly Zorikic maybe took tires. I think Lopez and Frala didn't. I managed to get past them with that advantage. Yeah, difficult to get past the BMW and a Merc with Ferrari at the moment, especially
What
out of slow corners.
what were you thinking? I'm gonna turn you over to Sarah in a second, but what were you thinking? You came out of pit lane in fifth. You start to wonder, oh my goodness, is this where the championship hunt ends? And then you go back out there and you get most of those spots back. What were you thinking?
Um, I was just terrified of the back of that pink Mercedes. I'll be honest, because I knew I was quicker because I've been like that first stint. My tires were at 27 psi, like the upper limit, like 0.8 or something too high. I was just suffering, and so I lowered them for the pit stop. Made sure I took tires. I knew that with lower fuel, I know how the car behaves, and it's a bit tricky to get past Dorkic. I regret that there was contact at the last corner. I don't know if you guys caught it. I was not watching the broadcast today while on my other screen I was trying to focus and such. But I had put string of personal bests after that, and after that I knew that I was able to catch up to Frala and possibly even Lopez at that point because I think both of us were gaining. I didn't know that. I was really hoping Frala would get Lopez and possibly deduct a few points from him, but if it's okay at the end, then I can settle with that. But yeah, surprised that I was able to win this season because last season I think I had a better chance in a worse car. I just made a lot of mistakes and had a lot of rotten luck last season, but still got fourth from it. So, and big thanks to Malcolm as well, who didn't have a good race, but was able to give me a bit of info on the fly, like I think I did to him last season. So that's great. So big thanks to him.
Sarah, you were silver champion.
First off, absolutely amazing driving today. Really, really pushed the Ferrari to the limit. Deeply impressive. I
you.
noticed that this is your second win in this series after your winning class at Alton. How did you
Yeah.
feel about this race compared to the Alton race?
The Alton Park's probably one of my strongest tracks in ACC. My home track as well, so there's a bit of home field advantage, I guess. But very, very different. A lot more bumpy at Alton Park. There's fewer chances for some of the other cars to use their outright power, I guess. This track is a lot more. They're able to use that power out of the corners a lot more to get away. So Alton was a lot more of a hectic race, especially with the we didn't have to do a pit stop. So strategy at Alton Park was a bit simpler, I guess. It was kind of just stay on the track until the end. This one definitely a lot more thinking on the fly involved. Yeah.
Thank you very much for answering that one.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your season 14 9-out silver champion, Mike Redford.
Oh, this might have to be pro next year. Oh no, I don't want to.
I mean, we'll talk
I,
about that when we get there.
I can't beat Daly. It's not fair. Nobody can.
Speaking of Jordan Daly, our Pro Series champion was never in doubt today, but put an exclamation point on the season. Jordan Daly, you have done something only one other driver has ever done in RCI Pro Series history. You have swept an entire championship.
Yeah, well, hello to start out with, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to say. It's been one of them this champ, I suppose. Usually I'm in there in with a fight with the top few, but I don't know. I really have my foot down this season, I guess.
You join illustrious names like Harry Conway, the only 3-time champion of the sport. Grim Lilith comes to mind as well. You're one of them now. You are a champion of Night Owl. And trust me, I know it's better than winning the lottery.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like I said, last race, I've been here since season 2, so it was something that we're always gonna try and do eventually. I started from silver, and here we are. I never even won silver, so it was just like I just kind of progressed through. I think I come third when I were in silver, but ended up going through anyway. And then yeah, I mean, I won it. There we go. Done. Can add it to my list there.
I've just got to say, both Redford and Daly have their own cheering sections in the RCI chat. People love you guys. They love seeing you guys go out there and do what you do, which is win races and championships. It's been nice to have your fans with us and friends along the way as well. Sarah Stant, your Pro Series champion.
And again, like I said to Mike here, first off, let me start off with a big congratulations. And I guess the biggest question I have is, how does it feel to be only the second person to complete the 5 sweep in league history?
It does feel pretty good, to be fair. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You get the little tingles like, oh yeah, I did something like it. Because like you say, not many people do it, and it doesn't usually happen, does it? Let's get it right, because you've got cars that are stronger at other tracks where it benefits other people. So to actually get it done, yeah, I'm happy with it. Very happy with it. Yeah.
Congratulations again, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for answering the question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Pro Series champion and the only person to win all 5 races in Night Owl, Jordan Daly. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, we've done. I wonder if that got picked up on stream or not. Somebody just did the clapping hands. Do it one more time. Do it one more time for me. I gotta know. Does it pick up? It does. All right. Stream heard that as well. Everybody clapping for our 2 champions. Congrats to them. Redford with that battle. We promised you a silver battle. We couldn't have believed how much of a battle we were going to get there. We also promised that Daly was going to try and go for the 5-peat. He was able to convert that as well. Sarah Stant, thank you again for being with me tonight to keep me from being all alone. And besides that, excellent commentary as usual. What are your final thoughts leaving tonight?
My final thought on this race was that this was something where a lot of drivers wanted to do the best they could and decided to put it on the line. And for some drivers, that ended well, and some drivers, they got a quick view into the pits. I hope that for the next series it picks up, that those people do a little bit better, have a better luck. But besides that, great racing out there.
Well, we don't yet know when season 15 is going to happen. All we know is the next championship here on RCI TV is the Mini British GT Championship. That starts this Monday. There's still time to get your pre-queue in and get on the grid for that race. Those races will be live broadcasted here on RCI TV. So like, subscribe on your way out tonight. We'd appreciate it. We're at 4,400 subscribers. That's no small feat, thanks to you. We do appreciate that, of course. And also, still time to sign up for RCI's 24-hour spa. That happens this weekend. Get a couple of friends around. Do some pre-quali this week. You've got all week to get it done and get in the race this weekend. I'm going to be in the race this weekend. Come beat up on me. Lap me 50 million times. I would love to see you out there. More races, of course, on the horizon for RCI, yet to be announced. We'll cross that when we get there. But as for now, I just want to say on behalf of everyone here that makes RCI run, the admins, the event managers, the broadcast team, the stewards, of course, and also the moderators, we thank you all for letting us do this and being a part of this. Season 14 has been an absolute blast. We can't wait to see you again sometime soon. But until then, I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Sarah Stant. Have a good night.
Have a great night, everyone.